I want to thank everybody for coming out this afternoon in a very, very humbling time for me and for my wife, Diane. And I want to start by thanking God for allowing me to have the opportunity to be able to even run for mayor for the city of Fresno. This is an incredible city, and I count it an honor to have the privilege to be able to lead as the mayor. And I'm very, very grateful for the supporters of the city of Fresno, for those people who have placed their confidence and trust in me, who have went out and voted for me. I am so grateful for that, and for all the supporters that have been there for me from the onset. I just want to say a special thank you to all of those individuals as well. The term doesn't start till January of 2021, and so that gives us a tremendous amount of time between now and then to be able to transition from Mayor Lee Brand's administration to mine. And there will be a lot of work that gets done during that time. I plan on spending considerable time in various departments in the city of Fresno, learning more about some of those operations that I can at least make some more intelligent decisions in terms of changes that need to be made in the city of Fresno. And there will be changes. There's changes with every administration. You know, along this campaign trail, I learned a lot about a number of things. I learned about people of Fresno. I've learned about the neighborhoods. I've learned things, quite frankly, that I thought I already knew. And those things are going to be very, very helpful for me as I assume the mayor's seat in the city of Fresno. I'm humbled today as I stand before you. I think there's more humility in victory than there is in defeat. I'm humbled because I know that the people of Fresno have put their trust in me. I'm humbled because I know that God has placed me in this position. And I'm humbled because it's an awesome responsibility to know that I'm going to be able to lead the city of Fresno for the next 4 years. And I count that a privilege, and I also know that it's a tremendous responsibility. I look forward to working with the city council. I know that during this election it was contentious at times. But I plan on reaching out to each and every one of the council members so that we can unite this city and to be able to do the things that, quite frankly, the citizens of Fresno deserve. And they do not deserve a divided relationship between the mayor and the council. So again, thank you. I'll open it up to any questions that you might have. Again, I did have a conversation with Andrew Jans today. Probably about 15 minutes after my campaign team notified me and congratulated me on the victory. Andrew and I had a great conversation, and I will say that Andrew did thank me for running a clean campaign. And I said from the onset that no matter what attacks may come my way, that I was not going to counterattack, I was not going to defend, that we were going to run a clean campaign, and we did all the way to the end. And I believe that was very, very important, and not only to hopefully set a precedent for the future of Fresno that you can win a campaign without attacking. I also want to set an example for my children and my grandchildren. And lastly, I knew it was important that if I was going to truly become a mayor that was committed to uniting this city, that I could not do it after going through a campaign that was contentious on my part. So hopefully it paid off. Ultimately, I think it's going to allow for healing and for us to be able to unite. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions you might have.
What's your first plan of action? Steps you're going to take to unite the city? I know you said you'd be reaching out to council members. What else?
Well, I'm definitely going to be reaching out to council members right away. All of the council members. I want to learn what's important to them in terms of their constituency, their districts, council districts. But I also want to reach out to various members of this community who have concerns with perhaps my leadership or the time that I spent as a chief, whatever that is. I do believe that when there is communication that occurs between people who disagree on issues, at the end of the day they can agree to disagree, or perhaps maybe have their minds changed as a result of that communication. I plan on doing a lot of that over the next 8 months.
Mayor-elect, one of the biggest decisions that Mayor Brand still has left is the next police chief. Are you going to ask him to consult with you or to hold off to let you make that decision?
Yeah, Lee Brand and I have already had a conversation, multiple conversations regarding the selection of the new police chief. And I fully anticipate that he's going to initiate that process here in the next month or so. And I will be a part of that process. He's asked me to be a part of that process. Quite frankly, I don't think there's any police chief candidate in the country, let alone internally, who would take that position unless the incoming mayor is part of that process and is a part of that decision-making process.
So beyond that, what are your priorities as you see them right now in terms of actual action at City Hall?
Well, the number one issue I believe in this city today is the issue of homelessness. And I do know that there are some things that are in the works on the part of the Mayor Brand's administration, some good things to address homelessness. I plan on building on those. I know that we have some temporary navigation centers that have been set up in the city. I plan to enlarge those, as I said during the campaign, so that we can bring individuals out of the environment into these navigation centers, into bridge housing, so that we can transition them into a normal life. And when we centralize services to those individuals, I believe that we're going to have a much better opportunity of allowing them to be productive. The issue that I'm going to be working closely on is how are we going to restore many of the departments within the city of Fresno who have not recovered, quite frankly, from the recession. I know in the police department alone there were some 260 civilians and 160 police officers that left the department, and there's still the vast majority of those civilians have not returned. Same holds true of the fire department, the parks department, and many others. I know that there is a potential tax measure that is being floated at this time, and I've already met with those individuals, and I'll continue to work with them in hopes that we can come up with a solution to have sustained revenue in the city of Fresno.
Related to homelessness, do you have any plans to, I guess, incentivize or try to get people to do more affordable housing, build more affordable housing?
Yeah, absolutely. Affordable housing in the city of Fresno, as it is in much of the state of California, is a significant issue. I believe that as a city, we have to take full advantage of tiny homes, and I believe that we have a unique opportunity within the core of Fresno to maximize the number of tiny homes within this area. And that's just one of many alternatives to affordable housing. And I do know that that we have a housing shortage in terms of affordability, and what we need to do is build in the city of Fresno.
There's a program that started up this week cleaning up trash along the highways, and I know that was an issue for you.
Yes.
Discouraged business. What else do you want to do to bring in business?
Well, number one, we have to have a comprehensive approach to beautifying this city. And that means taking full advantage of all of the volunteer efforts, the church organizations, the nonprofits, all the governmental entities, partnering with Caltrans, California Highway Patrol, on cleanup of areas that are state-owned but within the city. That's going to be important. That beautification effort, quite frankly, is what's going to enhance our image to where other people want to not only live in Fresno but do business in Fresno and to relocate here. The other issue certainly is we have to do a much better job of creating an environment where businesses feel welcome. And I'm not just talking about out-of-town businesses trying to relocate here. I'm talking about those businesses that are already here who want to expand. It's important that we do everything we can to expedite the process for them. You know, operating a business in the state of California can be very, very challenging because of the regulations. the taxes, the workers' comp issues that we face. And it's incumbent upon the city, our city, to do everything we can to mitigate or offset those complications that the state imposes. And so I plan on bringing in an outside consultant before I ever assume the office of mayor to work with the city manager and Lee Brand to have that paid for by a private individual. And so that when I do assume the role of mayor, that I'll have that in front of me, that we may be able to utilize some of the best practices that we see throughout the state of California, and to be able to incorporate those in the city of Fresno. And I also, as I said earlier, I plan on spending time in the planning department, the business section, learning more about the process and what are some of the challenges that they face, because I believe we have good people here at City Hall. They want to do the right thing. It's just a matter of us being able to take advantage of that.
Do you plan to retain most of the upper level management, including the city manager?
Those decisions have not been made in terms of who's going to be a part of my administration. I am going to sit down with each of the individuals in the city manager's office, the mayor's office, and that at the appropriate time I'll make that decision. But I do want to build a team that has a can-do attitude, a team that is looking to gravitate to yes and not no. And I want a team that is high energy, strong work ethic, and someone that is really committed to owning this city.
Chief, quick question. Fresno was never declared as a sanctuary city. We would talk to Lee Brand. He said, I'm not going to declare that. What's your take on that? And the second thing, there are a lot of undocumented live in this city. What's the message for them from you?
There's a balance to achieve when it comes to our undocumented population. We do not want our undocumented population to feel like they live in the shadows. It is important that they be productive members of our community. And if they're in fear, they cannot do that. On the same side, if those individuals are involved in any type of criminal activity, then they're going to be dealt with by the police department, just as they were when I was the police chief. We're not concerned with the individual's documentation status. That is a ICE responsibility. But we are concerned when people do things in our community where they victimize people. And so that's going to be the continued stance, just as it is with Lee Brand. That will be my stance as well, and it will be the stance that I took as a police chief. It will be the same stance that I take as a mayor.
Mrs. Dyer, what do you think about this?
I'm excited. I feel Jerry is the right person for this time, and I know his passion for the city, and I know he wants to really help the citizens of the city and help it become one Fresno.
Public health is a great issue right now, or a big issue right now with fears of coronavirus. Is there anything that you're talking with Mayor Lee Brand's administration about for how to change things and change any reaction to infectious disease that we might have in the future?
Well, you know, the county is largely responsible for health issues within the county of Fresno. I have had conversations. Nathan Magsig from the Fresno County Board of Supervisors, I know that he's been very engaged in that, and I too will be engaged with them. It's a very serious issue. Anytime you have some type of a disease like that now, you know, in the United States, over 1,000 people have died from it. It is pandemic, and it is something that we have to all be careful of. But at the same time, I think it's one thing to be cautious and careful. It's another thing to become paranoid as a society, and that's the balance we have to achieve. And I hope that we're able to achieve that as a society in general.
For the Chief, for the business, obviously when you were running, you definitely have done your homework. So how are you going to improve the conditions in Fresno to contact the multinational companies to bring more businesses here? Because one of the, I believe the ICE, there was a football team, they just left Fresno.
Yeah.
So what's your plan specifically about business and bringing more jobs?
Well, number one, it's important that we have those types of sporting events in Fresno. I think it was difficult when we lost the soccer team. I know that there were a lot of attempts to find a location where they could build a stadium. Those were unsuccessful. I'll do everything I can as the mayor within the limited powers I have in that respect to be able to bring those teams here. But in terms of overall corporations relocating to Fresno, a lot of folks don't know this, but there's a waiting list of these corporations that want to come to Fresno County and specifically. And there's a reason, especially when you look at the Amazons of the world, the distribution centers. We are centrally located in California, which makes us ripe. You know, the rents in Southern California, Northern California, for many of these businesses have skyrocketed. They're looking to relocate. What we have to do as a city and as a county is to open up our doors and our arms wide open. But we also have to work with the citizens that live in those areas in advance to make sure that we have their buy-in. And to be able to, for them to understand the benefit of relocating Amazons and Ultas to Fresno. It is significant, and we have to do that.
Would you like to name some of the corporations you think they're waiting?
You know, I don't know. I can tell you that I have met numerous times with the Economic Development Corporation. I've met with their board as recently as 2 weeks ago to talk about some of those opportunities that we have. We have developers here in Fresno that are willing to front millions and millions of dollars to build these locations for them, facilities. But they're reluctant if there's going to be any type of obstacles in the way that's going to ultimately cause them to, you know, to lose money on the deal.
Any plan to fix up roads?
Well, let me just tell you, the streets of Fresno, quite frankly, have a lot of work to be done, and they have for decades. The deferred maintenance on our streets in Fresno has gotten to the point in many neighborhoods where it's difficult to even drive on the streets. I walked a lot of neighborhoods in Fresno, and one of the number one issues that I heard from people that I spoke to was the sidewalks, the streets, and the trees in those neighborhoods. And we have to have a comprehensive approach. You know, I'll say this on the efforts to beautify our parks. I'm all for beautifying our parks in Fresno, but we have to beautify our neighborhoods at the same time. People live in those neighborhoods. They are deserving of having a neighborhood that they can be proud of. And as a city of Fresno, as a mayor, I plan on delivering that to them.
You've talked about, you know, one Fresno, but sort of on that vein of like beautifying neighborhoods and really targeting those areas. Is there a specific area that you know, that want to focus on, for example, downtown?
Well, you know, it's important, no matter where you live in Fresno, we're only going to be as prosperous and successful as the worst neighborhood. And we have to focus throughout the city of Fresno. But it's very easily, when you're not living in a neighborhood that is decayed, to not be aware of the needs of other parts of the city. And it's important that we all do what's right for the entire city. I can tell you right now, there are some neighborhoods in Fresno that at certain hours of the night closely resemble a third world country. And it's so important that we do everything for those neighborhoods. Let me just close with this. I said earlier, I'm deeply humbled. Quite frankly, when I found out the news today, I was in tears. And the first thing I did do was fall to my knees and thank God for allowing me to become the mayor of this city. Again, I take it with a great deal of humility, and I look forward to leading this city in 2021. And I'll be very, very engaged over the next 8 months up until that transition period, and working with Lee Brand in transition administrations. So, thank you guys. Appreciate it.